Okay, my name is Kyros. I'm going to tell you about this game that we created with Alex Coburn. And it is not actually probably a game, it's more of an interactive story. But for simplicity's sake, I'm going to call it a game. So the goal of this project was to create a game in which the theme and the story were represented in the spatial design. And for this reason, the game is full of symbolism and environmental narrative. And many of our spatial design decisions were based on Christopher Alexander's A Pattern Language, which is a book about architecture and urban design. Very good book. And during this walkthrough, I'm going to mention some, but not all, of the design decisions that were based on Alexander's book. We chose Minecraft to create the game basically because we are not great coders and we felt like we could focus much more on the spatial design decisions if we used an already existing and fully functional environment. And the other thing I want to say is that the game was inspired by many other works. For example, Every Day the Same Dream, an indie game by Paolo Berroccini, The Two Kings and the Two Labyrinths, a short story by Jorge Luis Borges, Alice in Wonderland, and many more. So we start here, a very small room, very dark, just a bed, chest, and a torch highlighting the chest. I'm going to open the chest and we see some flowers, which are a motif in the game. They become relevant later. You will understand why they are there. But for now, I'm going to just grab the journal, which by the way is John's journal. Our character is called John Wright. And we read, "Today is the same as yesterday, and tomorrow. Nothing ever changes. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months. When will it end? I am frozen. I lost the fire that fuels me. I wish my mom and dad were still here. I do not know how much longer I can do this. I have been having the same dream night after night. I get lost in its loops and cannot break free. Each night I die and wake up only to die again the following night. What does it all mean?" So this journal, the function is to set the tone and the plot of the game. And I'm going to tell you a bit more about the plot so you understand the decisions, the design decisions we took. So this character obviously is very depressed. He feels every day is the same. He's in a depressive loop. He lost his parents and he's having a dream. And this game we are playing is set in this dream. So everything you will see is part of the dream. And one interesting thing is that every time the character dies, which is not going to happen in this walkthrough just to make it shorter, but every time the character dies, he will come back to this bed, to this same room, to start all over again, to start the dream all over again. So what's happening actually is that you're playing the dream, the character dies, he wakes up, and you don't see when he wakes up because the game does an ellipsis and resumes the following night when he's dreaming. So that's the basic gist of the game, the story. And you can see that we try to represent his suppression in this room being very, very dark, very small, and also being in the basement. He is low in life. And this is also a theme of the game, the how high or how low the character is spatial wise, like if he's underground or if he's over the ground. That's also kind of like signifies the character mental health. So the first thing we see in this room is that the windows are placed very high, and this was to give an impression of like this is a prison to represent the character's mood. And the second thing we see is that you can have a glimpse of something, some torches there, and some kind of like stone rock construction. And this is based on a pattern by Alexander's, like a pattern that appears in Alexander's book called Zen views. And the idea of this pattern is that if you have a great view, don't spoil it by putting a super big window in your living room, for example, because that will, yeah, at first it will be shocking, but then you will get used to it, and you won't be hungry for more. So in this case, you put these small windows, sorry, and you pass by, you see these torches, and you say, "Oh, what's that? I want to see more of that. Let's go and find out what that is." There's a hole there. I'm not gonna explain why. I want to make it as short as possible. It's not gonna be short though, I guess. But you can see the house is super run down, or at least that's what we tried to show with these bricks being like different kind of bricks. I assume that the character kind of like put there to fix the house, but it's like run down. Of course, Minecraft didn't allow for many things, but I think it was a good idea to use Minecraft because we could like do a very big world. And this is another room, which is actually pretty nice. It's very bright, full of books. Has a bed, double bed. So I assume, or the player should assume, that this is the parents' room. It's not in the basement. It has a cool window, not like up there, so it doesn't feel like a prison. You can see the animals there of the farm. Yes, this looks like a farm. And I mean, it is a farm, but that's when the player kind of like probably realizes it's a farm. And yeah, so the idea here is to show that the house is super run down, but the parents' room is not. So we can see that although the character is super depressed, he still takes care of his parents' room. Okay, so now we are at the farm, and it's supposed to look like it could support a family, this farm, but it doesn't anymore. The crops are all like dry, so it feels like the character, actually like is not doing much work on the farm. He's depressed. And one small thing I want to show you here is that there's a flower here, hidden flower. And well, the idea about this hidden flower is that there are many of these areas. There are many scattered hidden flowers throughout the game, and this is based on a pattern by Christopher Alexander, which is called Half Hidden Garden. And half hidden gardens are supposed to be accessible but hidden, so they are kind of like intimate. And in this game, the idea was to provide like a little reward, a refuge from and comfort from an otherwise uncomfortable and anxiety-inducing places that the game is filled of. This will make sense by the end of the game. Why is it flowers, and what does it mean? Then another thing about this is there's fences all around, so the player cannot get out to like real Minecraft world. So we are guiding him through the path we decided. Then there's another thing I want to show you here, which is the right quarry. I guess it's pronounced quarry. By the way, the character is called John Wright, and this is part of the world building environmental narrative that we introduce in the game. As it says here, is closed indefinitely, so it supports the idea that everything is abandoned here. It's not what it used to be, and now this guy is alone there without his parents are presumably dead. They are dead. And well, here there's like a passage and another hidden flower. So kind little rewards that the player can find throughout the game. Okay, so now we go climb the mountain or the stairs. Seems like an old place, something like super old because it has the green stuff here. I don't know what the name of that is. Then we have flowers, the same flowers that were on the chest. That's important, kind of. And so a lot of details. And this was supposed to be closed. Now I open it. And this is a cemetery or graveyard. And these are like the backstory is that these are John's, so the main character's grandparents. And grandparents, so four. Anna Wright, Ronald Wright. And this is set apparently in the 19th century. So all his grandparents are dead. And one thing that we took also from Christopher Alexander's pattern book is that the graveyard is raised, like it's on top of the mountain to indicate that's an important place, holy, sacred. And there was a pattern in the book, pattern language book, indicating this, as well as the idea that you have multiple gates here, one gate there, another gate here, indicating that with um, each gate that you go through, it's more and more important the area that you get into. So one gate, another gate, you get into a more important place. There's this big oak, I guess, tree, and the flowers that John had in his chest, and William Wright and Jane Wright, his father and mother. So these are the flowers that John actually comes and puts there every day. And the thing that was a bit lower was that we saw before was the garden where John gets his flowers. William Wright, they died on the same year. We looked it up. It's cool. I mean, not cool, but there was an epidemic that year, so that date is not by chance. And we can see father, teacher, leader, and her love was a shining light. So his parents were really important. And the idea about the game is that the backstory is that ever since his parents died, John is in this negative loop, depressive loop, and the game is actually about um, him overcoming this loop, breaking the loop. Okay, another area. No, okay, another gate. So even more important. And this is John Wright, the main character, us. Born in 1841, died now. Lived one day, died infinite times. So the idea here is that the character lived one day because basically every day for him is the same. It's kind of like a Groundhog Day scenario. And died infinite times. This makes reference to, well, the character feels like he's dying constantly. So it's like hell. He lives just one day and dies all the time. But also this refers to the dream he's having. And the dream that was referring the journal. And this is a limitation we had with Minecraft, but this is already supposed to be the dream, and the holes that I didn't show you what they were for, they were supposed to do something, but okay, doesn't matter. And there's something that this clearly some supernatural stuff. So you're supposed to like this is supposed to call your attention, and you can actually break it. Not this. You cannot interact with almost anything, but you can with this, and you fall. And you fall into this place. So that rainbow tunnel was kind of like the transition into the strange, into the supernatural. So far it has been an introduction, setting the tone, the plot, but now is where the challenge begins. It's where, in terms of Joseph Campbell's terminology, this is where uh, when the character was up there, that was the call to adventure, the rainbow tunnel, and this is what triggers the hero's journey. This is where the adventure starts, and when our character will have to fight to break his depression loop in this nightmare or dream. And one thing is that this falls symbolizes the character being at its lowest. So throughout the game, he will go up and up, and, as a way to represent this vertical ascension is representing the progress in the game and the progress in the games in the character's um, mental state, let's call it. Okay, so we are in what is called, what we call the hub labyrinth, and we have 4 gateways. 2 actually are not finished. What's after these gateways is they're not finished. We had some ideas, but we didn't finish them. But maybe I can tell you later about them. But we have 2 gateways: sand gateway and um, ice gateway. So I'll go through the ice gateway. This is one more thing about this is also like old, super old place, dark, and this spider web is not only to make the fall softer and so the player doesn't die, but also it's an architectural weenie. So throughout this labyrinth that we are going to go through, you can always see the spider web, so it's like a reference point. Okay, and the gateways, they have like these different elements: wood, ice, sand. So they represent, they foreshadow the challenge that is coming. So we have this, which is not a maze, this is a labyrinth, and the difference is that a maze has paths that lead to nowhere, so you can get lost. This is not the case, you can't get lost here, this is a labyrinth. So the idea here is, this is not only based on a pattern by Alexander, but also the idea is that the player can just walk freely. Well, this is supposed to be closed and you open it. The player can walk freely without having to solve any puzzle. This is kind of like a moment for the player to reflect on what's happening on the story. And it's also supposed to represent these loops that he goes through. They are supposed to represent the character's negative loop, right? He's going through loops all the time, and the loops are a recurring theme in the game. It's a spatial, like it's a spatial design decision that we took in order to represent the negative loop, the mental, the psychology of the character. So now we are here, which is a transition area. This is a corridor, so it's narrow, so you're not supposed to stay there. It's a corridor, you're supposed to go on, walk through it. And stone transitions into ice, and then we have a space where there's no ice and there are some torches. So this is kind of like teaching the player how to solve the coming challenge. Fire, when there's fire, ice melts. And yeah, okay, so we keep going. More fire and water next to it. So again, fire melts water, melts ice. Sorry. And we have what it seems like another labyrinth. So again here, lighting is low, walls are high to provide this feeling of unease, nightmare feeling. And here we find some gateway thing and another one, which there seems to be another place there to go. We continue, run a little bit, and the thing about this frozen labyrinth is that it refers to what John was saying in his diary, in his journal, which is that he feels frozen, and this goes in line also with he feels that every same is the same day, and he feels that frozen in this his life. So this labyrinth represents that aspect of his progression. Again, a labyrinth, not a maze. The challenge is not actually to find the path, because the path is recurring, it's circular, like his life. And we find something here. Find torches, which I'm going to grab some. 56 scrap, goodbye. And the thing with torches in Minecraft is that when you put it next to ice, it can take a while for the ice to melt. So I may skip this step. This is some limitation of the game. But okay, this is there actually for you to try how torches, to try this out, how torches melt ice. But actually, if you melt that ice, you won't, it's not useful. Oh, by the way, there's another flower there, hidden flower, something to appreciate. But yeah, you don't earn any. Oh, there we have ice melting. So now what I'm going to do is actually what you have to do to solve this puzzle is go to the other door, the door that showed there was something in an area behind it, and you're supposed to go there and use the torches there for the ice to melt. I'm going to go. And the lesson here, if you will, is that in order to get out of the labyrinth, in order to get out of the loop, you have to break the loop, break the ice with fire, you know, and melt the ice. And melt the ice, not melt. Okay, so this is where you're supposed to put the torches. So I'm gonna put them here. Lots of torches. Maybe that will accelerate the process. So those are all the torches I can put. Let's wait for a couple of seconds. Oh, yeah, we have one. Okay, so now they melted. I should be able to go through this. It's a bit difficult. Well, I broke it. You're not supposed to break it, actually you cannot, but I changed the mode to make it, I changed it so I can break to make it faster. So you go here, this area is super hidden for you to notice the area. And now you have another loop. This time is stairs. So I guess I can go faster here. And we have this, which actually is some kind of like a reward, a visual reward for solving the challenge. You have this, and you can climb into one of these, and you go. So again, a visual reward. And a door with a lever. I pull, I open, and stairs, more loops. So guess where I'm going to be now? I'm going to be at the hub labyrinth. Boom. So the thing about that lever I pulled, the idea was to, okay, so that lever, can you see that door that's open? That door opened before it was closed, and it opened when I actioned the lever I just actioned. So the idea was to have 3 doors, and you had to solve each labyrinth. This labyrinth, the wood labyrinth, the dark labyrinth, the dark having also a very special meaning, and the ice labyrinth, in order to unlock all 3 doors and finally go to unlock all 3 doors and finally go to the last challenge, which was the desert challenge. Okay, so I'm going to the final challenge of the game. I can run, maybe make it a bit faster. Okay, here we have a view of the labyrinth. Somewhere over here, maybe I skipped it, I don't know, but there's another hidden area with flowers. And the whole thing about the flowers will make sense pretty soon. Ah, here they are. There are the flowers. You can just see a glimpse of them. So you have to be very attentive to notice them. Right, there are the flowers again. Just jumping, you can see them for a split second. And we should be reaching, there's the architectural weenie I was referring to before. Oh, I hope I didn't. Okay, cool. Okay, and lastly, this is another transition area, narrow, so you're supposed to just go through it without staying there too much. There's a chest here with a minecart. Well, yeah, this is a very long transition area, so I'm going to just skip it, using cheating, basically. I'm going to use this trick, but you're not supposed to do this during the game. Actually, you cannot. They just switch to creative mode instead of adventure mode. And the reason it's so long, this corridor, is because the next challenge is, the place is very big, so we have to put it far away. So now there is a pressure plate here, which, as you saw, like up there, up left corner, upper left, set the time to so I'm skipping this too, but loops, the idea of the loops. And ascension. So now we are ascending, and we are at the last challenge, which is the desert. Yeah, the change of time is like it's right now. It's just you can see a bit of the sun there. So it's not only ascension; it's also about to be. The sun is about to come out. That signifies this is the final challenge. So that goes like the character is almost there. So another thing is that here you have a hole, and if you fall through that hole, you will be dead. And in line to what the journal said, the journal at the very beginning of the game, every time you die, you start a dream again. I of course didn't fall on purpose because I don't want to start the game now again. But also the idea of starting the same dream again reinforces the idea of the loops. Okay, now we are in the desert, which it's like the ultimate labyrinth, right? It's the one where everything looks the same. No paths are needed. And the thing about desert is that it's not a prospect space in which you feel that you are vulnerable to attacks from anywhere. But it's the thing is that it's so big and so empty that you're supposed to feel like nothing is going to happen ever. No enemies, no threats here. So the question is, where do we go? We have this kind of like 4 directions apparently, and well, that's the last one you're supposed to read. Not well, that's the one we are going to take, that route. So why go anywhere when all paths appear the same? It's very pessimistic. There is safety in the status quo. Nothing ever changes, and there is no such thing as sameness. So this is the different one, the one that has a positive node, so we are going to follow this. The desert again symbolizes, okay, this dirt road is there to show you that you should go that way. This change of pattern in the floor, in the ground. But the desert symbolizes how he's overwhelmed by the sameness of his life. So here are some more elements, some more stuff that you're supposed again to choose what directions to go. And we have two. This is supposed to be John Wright, the main character, and one has a plant, and the other one has a compass. So you're supposed to follow the compass. The plant is like the farm, his life, his everyday life. The farmer kind of like represents the past. I'm gonna go a bit faster here. So now you have, again, kind of like the idea is here is like you have two paths. You can go right or left. I have ice or water. So based on the previous challenge where you melted ice, you're supposed to follow the way of the water. I'm going fast now to make it quicker. But the idea of the game is to be a slow game for you to reflect, to think. Now, again, you have like two paths. One is dry plant, the other one is a growing plant, so like a live plant, some seeds and some fully grown plant. So we're going to go that way. That's there to show that it should keep going on. And now this is the final clue, and it's more like a straight, like it's very, very obvious. This is an arrow, so we are going to go that way. And this is the climax of the game, actually. So we see this sign which says there is no such thing as sameness, just as before. For those who know where to look. Now we have our pressure plate, step on it, and the day-night cycle is unlocked. So finally time starts flowing. And this is actually, for those who know where to look, this is actually the whole message of the game. As we see the sun rise there, the whole message of the game, well, by the way, you are supposed to go towards the sun. So, but the whole message of the game is that, his life, John's life, maybe seems like everything is the same and loops and loops and loops, but there are small things that make it worth living his life, and these are the flowers that are scattered throughout the game that you have to look very carefully for those who know where to look. But if you look carefully, you will find the things are worth living for. Now the final sign, now go and live your dream. So there are wings here. And live the dream is also, well, of course, because this is a dream, so you can go and live your dream. And this is like the rainbow tunnel, the rainbow in which was the transition into the nightmare. This is the transition out of the nightmare and into the dream. That's a similar pattern. And basically now you have two options here. You can either jump and kill yourself and start the dream all over again, but now knowing that there's a lot of value in the loop has a lot of value in it, and you can go back, and of course if you die you would wake up in the bed, in the room where we started, and you would be able to go over everything again, but now paying attention to all the flowers, which, by the way, we didn't see all the hidden details of the game today. Or you can also, the other option to break the loop, both options break the loop, is to just fly away and discover all that Minecraft has to offer for you, which is basically everything. So we are going to do that. We're jumping, and we are flying away with our wings. And I'm going to land more flowers. Who knew? Well, that's it. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.